welcome to my podcast, Do It Your Way. My name is Andrea D. This podcast is about living the life you want to live. And to do that, I have amazing guests that share their stories on how they started to where they are now, what are the choices they made now. To live the life you want to live, you have to choose. And coming on, my first guest of this season is Katie Phillips. Now, Katie Phillips is a life coach, and she is the founder of the School of Self-Love. She's also an author. She has amazing challenges, amazing books out. You really need to check her out. Now, we talk in that podcast about her story and where it started for her, where was the click, where it all happened up until today. But also she takes us onto how to journal, how to go through the motions, how to deal with it all. And I think the key words are choose and deal with it. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Katie Phillips. Before I put you on, just so you know, this conversation is going to be only audio. Now, I so apologize. I've had a problem with my hard drive, and so I'm not able to put the filming that we had. However, this is the first and only time that this will happen, I promise. Okay? So, enjoy the podcast. See you soon. So today I have Katie Phillips with us. Katie sorry, my accent just came out really strongly.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about who you are and, this whole, I know you don't like the word journey. I read on your bio that you didn't like the word journey, but tell us about your story, let's say.
It's not that I don't like the word journey. It's just so overused. But I haven't found another word yet. If you know of a better word than journey, I'm all ears. But life is a journey and everything's a journey. And I feel like, every day in its own right is its own little journey when we begin to live consciously and overcome our humanness and our habit of living kind of unconsciously and on autopilot. And that's, I really, my journey to being a transformational and therapeutic coach, a women's empowerment coach, a love and dating coach, all the things in my bio. The journey to being here and doing the work I'm doing all began because I had to learn to live consciously. I just was on this kind of, and I know I'm not alone in this. I think this is just the human experience. I was on this kind of treadmill of doing life the only way I knew how. Like, I knew one way of doing life, which was largely connected to the modeling from my parents and from my family going back many generations, the modeling from the society I was a part of, the shoulds of the society I was part of. I just kind of learned one way of doing life. And it's not necessarily that it was right or wrong. It's just that it wasn't completely and utterly aligned with the truth of who I am. And way back then, when I began to learn this concept that you could live consciously, that you could live aligned with the truth of you, with your purpose, with your mission, with what you're here to contribute to the world, when I realized that was possible, I just noticed that I was doing all sorts of things. There was all sorts of habits of behavior I had going on and just ways of showing up in the world that just didn't feel good. And that actually then manifested as anxiety and worry. And I had a period of time where I was depressed as well, because I just wasn't aligned with me. So, if I go back, sometimes I wonder where to begin starting to tell the story of my journey. I had a fairly cataclysmic experience with my mum's suicide. So when I was 22, my mum took her life. And yeah, it was traumatic and shocking, and not shocking. It was kind of expected, because she had attempted suicide 5 years previous to that, when I was 17. So it was almost kind of expected, but hoped that it would never happen. But that experience, I think for me, it really solidified some very deep belief systems that, again, very unconsciously, sort of subconsciously running my life, that said, Katie, this is as good as life is ever going to get for you. And, my mum was suffering with anxiety and depression. I can now see, now that I'm perimenopausal, I can now see that she was perimenopausal, and those symptoms were accentuated for her and weren't being dealt with. She was being treated for depression, not for a hormonal imbalance. So I can see so much else was going on for her. But, I made that experience and her death mean that, yeah, this is as good as life's going to get for you. And look, your mum experienced anxiety and depression. It's probably going to be your experience. My dad was an alcoholic. I remember a doctor telling me it's pretty likely, Katie, that with mum and her anxiety and dad with his alcoholism, like, this is the path that's ahead for you. This is something you need to be aware of for you. And I kind of thought, oh, that's a bit shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I kind of thought, oh, right. So there's the cards I've been dealt. And I didn't know I had a lot of charge over that. I didn't know I could make choices around that. I didn't know how I was running through my life in a very conditioned and programmed way until I did. And it was, so after mum's death, I really did live very much as a victim to that. And I was very much living into a victim archetype. It's a big part of the work I do now with women, is helping them to understand this archetype and how to break free of it. So I had probably a solid 10 years of living like that, until I just very gratefully woke up to the world of coaching. And I had had therapy over the years, which was very helpful. And then I met my first transformational coach, and it just changed everything for me. It moved me beyond telling my pain stories, various experiences through my childhood leading into mum's suicide. It helped me to come to peace with those stories and choose something else going forward. I was like in this sort of habit, on this treadmill of telling the same stories, reliving the same pain. And while talking about it, it definitely helped to instigate a healing journey for me. But I wasn't moving forward. I wasn't choosing something else. I didn't know how to choose something else until I met this transformational coach. I did something called the Hoffman process, which I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, what is it?
At the time, it was, I think they've changed the process a little bit now, because this is sort of 12 years ago that I did it. But it's like it was a 7-day residential personal development retreat, but it's not a retreat in the sense that you and I might know, going on a yoga retreat, for example. It was a proper deep dive into a remembering of me. And and there was a therapeutic side to it, in that there was a lot of inner child healing work and so on that went on. But it really set me up to continue with a transformational coach and just move my life forward, change up my thinking. I realized that I literally could create my life based on what I choose to think. And that was amazing to me. I had a huge spiritual awakening while on the Hoffman process, and connected to my spiritual self, which I kind of knew that I had, but it was so linked to the church and Christianity. And then I had some really tough experiences around that as a teenager, that I'd cut that element of myself off. So I didn't have that innate trust in myself, in life, in something greater than me, which I would now call life, God, the universe, sort of source energy. I cut myself off to all of that, and I left myself feeling very alone in the world. Like I had to do it all alone. I had to figure it out all alone. I didn't have any sort of innate trust that there was an energy greater than me guiding me and loving me and available to me. And that really came alive for me when I did the Hoffman process, and has grown and grown and grown over the last 12 years immensely. Yeah, I mean, when I woke up to discovering how unconsciously I'd been living life, how I'd been living as a victim, and how I felt, the anxiety I felt, the worry that I constantly experienced was just reflective of the thoughts I was telling myself, and I had been telling myself forever and a day. When I realized I could change that all up, and I noticed how I felt better, how my circumstances were changing, how I was bringing in really amazing new experiences, making fantastic new friendships, I realized I had to, I became really evangelical about it. I wanted other people to know, and that's how I moved out of my corporate world and into the space of becoming a coach and an author and and all that I do now. It's been a huge journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that you said when you choose to change your thought process. Do you remember that moment, or was it like sort of a step by step, or was it like a specific moment? I'm just gonna give you a little bit of background in my story before you answer. I grew up, my dad is an alcoholic, still alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I remember at 18, I moved to New York City by myself, my suitcase, I'm a musician, so I got all these big dreams, but I remember going out, and I used to go out a lot, partying and all this stuff. But I remember going out and specifically choosing to care for myself and saying to myself, I am not going to be like my dad, and I'm not going to hurt myself because of where I came from. I'm going to choose to move forward and build a different life. That was my choice at 18. Obviously, life changes. I still choose that anyway. But, at 18, sure. That was my moment. So did you have that same kind of moment?
That's really interesting. So yes, and there's a little bit of a twist to it. So I chose, after my mum dying, that I chose to not be like my mum. So I chose that. But what I realized was, because we get what we think about, in the choosing to not be like her, I was rebelling against all that she was, all that she represented. I was rebelling against anxiety, depression. I was rebelling against codependency and people pleasing and guilt and all that she was living. I was rebelling against putting a man before me. Basically my mum's life experience, I was rebelling against that. But what I've come to discover is I was rebelling against something instead of living into my truth. And they're two very different things. So my focus was on what I didn't want rather than what I did want. And I didn't know what I did want because I didn't have that depth of relationship and connection to myself yet. So I was living in avoidance of something. But the more we avoid and resist something, actually the more we're attracting it in. So I came to discover. Because I did have this moment, and I would have been about 35, and I had recently left, perhaps a year before, I'd left my son's father, and my son was 2, and I'd ended up in this straight off the bat rebound relationship. It was typical. It was typical of a woman that didn't know herself, who didn't feel safe in the world, who needed a man. Again, this is the irony of rebelling against my mum's experience. I needed a man to reflect back to me my significance, that I was lovable, that I was worthy, the connection piece, I needed a man to create that experience for me. But it was a super unhealthy relationship. And it was ending, of course. And there was a lot of drama around it. And I found myself one day, and actually I share this story, and I was very lucky to be invited to do a TED Talk for Google in London some years ago. And I shared the story in there in more detail. But in a nutshell, I found myself one afternoon taking Valium in the middle of the day, locked myself in the bedroom, blinds drawn. My son was at nursery. And I just wanted the world to go away. I wouldn't say I wasn't suicidal per se, but boy, was I very swiftly heading in that direction. And I realized that day when I was literally on the floor with anxiety, I was properly coming undone. So I was taking the Valium to numb out and feel better. I was under the duvet. But I realized that was my mum, the day that she took her life. She had locked herself in her bedroom. She had just broken up with her boyfriend, which was an unhealthy relationship. It was like for like. And there I had been for just over a decade, trying so hard not to become my mum. And then I realized I had become my mum. And I was feeling what I could only begin to imagine she was feeling the day that she died. And something in me just clicked. And I realized, holy shit, I was trying so hard, and I was living a big life, like I had this amazing career, and I was traveling the world, and I had, I was climbing Kilimanjaro, and then I was off at Grand Prix and World Cups and Olympics, and because that was my job, and I was jet setting around the world, doing all these fun things, looked great, living this big life, because I was not going to be that woman that was under the thumb of a man and anxious and so on. And I was creating a great life, but it was all in avoidance of becoming like my mum. And then when I realized that I had become her anyway, I just knew that I was missing a trick somewhere, that I didn't understand. And I knew that I'd learned a way of doing life, and I needed to learn another way of doing life. And so in that moment, I chose to, whatever it would take to discover the other way, because there had to be another way, because what I was doing wasn't working. And I had a little boy then, so I wasn't doing it for me. To be honest, I think if I didn't have my son, I may well have gone down that suicidal route. But I had my son, and I adored him. It makes me want to cry now. I adored him. I still adore him. It's that fierce mama bear energy. And it's like, I will do whatever it takes to make sure you have a great life. And I am not going to do to you what mum did to me, even though she didn't mean to, So yeah, a huge choice in that moment was, come on, Katie, there's got to be another way. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. It's great. Thank you for that. And do you have one son only, or do you have more than
I have
kids now?
One. I say just. I don't know. I don't mean to say just. I have my son, who is now 14.
Wow, teenage years.
And yeah. And my husband James has two children, 13 and about to turn 17.
Oh, your house is busy with hormones.
Oh, yes, it is. And my hormones in the mix too, with my perimenopause. So it's really interesting at times.
Must be ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now you've come into who you are today, and you built the School of Self-Love. So you're teaching, obviously, through your experience and everything you've been through. Is there an other side? Like, do you come out of self-love? Do you see yourself as, this is who you can become and this is who I am now? Or is it a constant process of discovering and learning? And how does it all work?
Yeah, it is a constant process, constant. And that's why the word journey is, it is a journey every day. Sometimes it's a journey within an hour.
Yeah.
We can, when you're living really deeply consciously, what I can move through in an hour or two in terms of my own transformational work, which I'm always doing, is profound. Sometimes my husband will come home from work and he's like, "What did you do today, darling?" I'm like, "Oh my God. I mean, where do I begin?" What I personally move through today, what I witness clients move through today, it's enormous. It's an ongoing journey. I think that, it's a bit of a bumper sticker for a car that's, about self-love. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
It is a choice every minute of every day. And yeah, it's a commitment to being kind to yourself every minute of every day, and noticing what your habits are. I know for me, my habits would be perfectionism. My habit is to have to work hard to prove my worth. These are kind of fallback things. And it's a daily practice for me to remind myself that it's okay to surrender into my feminine power. I don't have to prove my worth through sort of toxic masculine action all the time. I remind myself that I'm enough. I remind constantly, every day. I have a beautiful relationship with my inner child, who I regularly have to check in with, because if I feel nervous or overwhelmed or any number of emotions, I know that it's usually my little girl inside saying, "Hey, what about me? I don't understand. I don't know how to do that." And I have to, have that inner dialogue with myself where I remind myself of my power, and my worth. And it's a practice every single day. And I actually created a membership called Evolution Membership for the purpose of having a space for women to go to keep that daily reminder going. Because I feel very, very lucky that I get to have work and a purpose in the world that has me remember and do my work and connect to these pieces that I've just talked about every single day. I write about it, I talk about it, I coach it all day, every day. I'm constantly in it. And I really believe that makes it easier for me to stay connected with me, to overcome my humanness, to retain my spiritual connection. But for the woman in a corporate job, for the woman who's a full-time mom, for anyone outside of working full-time in the world that I get to work in, we forget. I work in this world full-time. I still forget. I have to remember. So I have created a membership that helps women just to tap into that. Because I believe we get something called, I've coined it, transformational amnesia. So it's like, it doesn't matter how much personal growth work you've done, doesn't matter how far you've come, how much you've healed. We wake up every day with this level of amnesia where we forget our truth, we forget our power, we forget, I've actually healed that. Like, I don't need to repeat that pattern. I don't need to show up like that. We have to sort of remember every day. Yeah.
That's very, very interesting, because I recently traveled to see my family back in France, and I had to deal with my past, which when you travel and you move away, you kind of just you can let it go, because it's like everything is, you could start from fresh, from something new, right? So, and it brought me right back to I'm 15 years old, and everything, like my body, everything is like a mess. And I'm like, what the hell? I've worked so hard to be able to be here and to deal with this. And I'm back to when I was 15. And even like my family kind of, everything went back. It was funny. My brother is, 6'3" now. I'm 6 feet, but he's like a big guy. And I became back the big sister. I'm, it's really interesting. Anyway, and then, I come back here and I'm still that person. I was like, wait, hold on. So Do you have any kind of routines that you work on, or that you talk about daily routines? I like the kettle, kind of putting on the kettle and taking a moment for ourselves, or you talk about also journaling. Is there things that you think we should be doing daily? And is there any other things tricks or tips you can give us?
Oh my gosh, loads. I'm a big fan of, I love a daily practice, and that daily remembering of connecting into the truth of who you are, of connecting in also to source energy, to that, whatever your language is, God, life, universe, that's something greater. And I get bored doing the same thing every day. So I really mix things up. So it's kind of nice to have almost like, it's something actually I suggest in my book, and with all of my clients that I work with, I suggest they write themselves a list of spiritual practices or daily practices, ways of connecting with themselves. Write a list of 20 things and just pop it up somewhere and choose one or two every day. Because again, in our transformational amnesia, we even forget what makes us feel good. We forget our tips and tools to connect in with ourselves. So choose a couple of things, and it could be anything from writing your gratitudes, when you wake up in the morning, or perhaps before you go to bed at night, because what we focus on amplifies. So as we focus on what we have in our world to be grateful for, we are creating more to be grateful for. It's a really powerful practice. I remember right in the beginning of doing a gratitude practice, I didn't even know what to write. I was so in victim mentality. I was like, I had this voice going, I don't have anything to be grateful for. Life's hard, and so I had to start really simple. I'm grateful that my house has electricity. I'm grateful there's food in the fridge. I have electricity to put the fridge on. It was so basic, and then it grows and grows. So a daily gratitude practice is powerful. Yes, journaling is key, and one of my favorite ways shall I share a journaling process?
Please, yeah, that would be great.
Because within this process, you can take out just one element of it and just do that. Or if you've got more time, do the whole process. But a really powerful journaling process is to start with a brain dump, because mostly we've got these really unhelpful, exhausting thoughts that have us feel like we're going crazy, going round and round and round like a loop in our head. A bit like I liken it to a train track, a kid's train set. And if you get the tracks and you put them in a circle, so the train's just going round and round, we've essentially got one of those in our head. As soon as you start journaling, you're essentially picking up one of the tracks and turning it out. So you're opening the loop. So it goes around and out, around and out. And so if you can just brain dump just the noise and the chat that in that moment is going on in your head. And it could be almost the same every day, or you might notice it changes up, or depending on what time of day you're journaling. But whatever's going on, it could be a to-do list. It could be a conversation that you wish you could have with someone, or you wish you'd said that yesterday because you perhaps felt like you got that wrong. It could be limiting beliefs, just mean thoughts that you're telling yourself. But whatever you notice is going on in your head, just dump it all onto paper and just get it out. Because as we do that, we can free up the space in our head, and then it allows us to drop into our heart. Because when we journal, we want to be able to write from our heart, and we want to feel our feelings. We want to connect with our desires. But when we've got all that noise going in our head, we can't. So we need to kind of dump all that out. And then a really nice way to connect in with our heart is to write, say, 3 gratitudes. And then to write 3 things that you're proud of yourself for. Because again, this is self-love, and this is self-love in action. Self-love is very practical. So 3 things you're proud of yourself for, because it builds that deep, beautiful relationship with yourself. 3 things that you value about yourself, perhaps character traits that you have that you really value. So now we're in our heart. And then I love at that point to start writing about kind of my desires, or what do I want for my life, or what would I like to change in my life. and I can really feel it from my heart. And then I can move into a space of connection with my spirit and ask for support, ask for help. So I might write a prayer. I might ask God or life to support me with something. And then I just allow myself to free write. And because I've released so much, I've connected to my heart, I'm tapped into my desires, I can just, it's like poetry might come. Or my spirit will just speak through me, or I'll receive a download of an amazing idea for something. And it comes because I'm in receiving mode, because I'm not caught up in the busyness of my head, and I'm not caught in ego. I've just really connected with the truth of me. I mean, my energies, it has calmed, it's receptive, and I can receive information. I can receive guidance. But if you only got a little bit of time, just write 3 things that you're proud of yourself for. Or just write 3 things you value about yourself.
Mm-hmm. This is something you do every day?
No. No, I don't have time to do that every day. I mean, but there are days that I will.
Yeah.
You know, there are days that I will do that whole process. And then I'll do my gratitudes and I'll do yoga. Or I'll combine my affirmations, because I'm a big fan of creating affirmations as part of a healing journey. And I'll use my affirmations in a yoga practice. I'll go walking in the woods and remember what I'm grateful for. Like I choose any number of things. Yeah. But we're busy, and this is to be remembered. We're busy. So it's about finding a way of connecting with yourself. I mean, you obviously read something I've written somewhere about with the kettle. It's that when you put the kettle on, just take a moment to tune in with, okay, how do I feel? What do I need today? Just take that moment. That's if that's all you did every day, wow. I mean, that in itself would be a game changer. Maybe add in writing 3 gratitudes before you go to sleep at night. You know, and then you'll have days where, you know what, it would feel really juicy to spend an hour with my journal, or 2 hours, and just do a big brain dump and then feel into my desires and really enjoy that. But we have to find a way of connection with ourselves on a daily basis that feels doable. Like we're not adding it like another thing to beat ourselves up with because I haven't achieved my journaling practice today. You know?
Yeah, and that's what it's like it's on the to-do list, and then you can't do it all, so then you're like, oh my God. But one of the things is when you don't do those things, you're somehow, I know for me, I'm somehow how you call this? I lose, it's almost like I lose balance. So it's, I'm not balanced anymore. And I'm like, oh, why am I not balanced? And I could feel it in the way I even talk to people, or the way I talk to the people I love mostly, which they take it all the time. But I'm like, oh my God, I'm not a good, friend right now. I'm just like kind of, who am I? This is not who I am. Yeah. Do you know about have you ever tried to have done the Artist's Way, the book? Have you heard of it?
So, funnily enough, I did buy the book and I lent it to somebody. I never received it back. And I never actually did that. But, I know she's Julia Cameron. She's big on the morning pages. And there's a lot about her practices that really resonate with me. I've not actually taken myself through her process, but
because I've done it because I was stuck in a moment of songwriting and all this stuff. And one of the things is you need to sit down and write 3 pages per day. There's no, you can't get out of it. You have to write 3 pages. And at the beginning, you're like, what the hell? But you write and you write, I don't want to write 3 pages.
Yeah, right.
But then it goes into this thing where it almost felt like my subconscious was just writing. And I just was like, oh, this is how I feel. And just kind of the unload of it was really like, And I couldn't, it's funny because now I don't write 3 pages a day. I haven't written my journal in a long time. So that's a good reminder right there. But just being there, and then you stop for whatever reason, and then you continue life and you try different things. And then you're like, okay, but how do I get back to that point? Do you think that it's more about just continuing those rituals and we can start at any time to go back to where we want to be, or is more about building something new, constantly building something new? Does that make sense?
I feel like it's a bit of both. Like, so I remember in my early days, so when I really was waking up to myself and having my spiritual awakening and doing, I go back to when I was beginning my healing journey. I did journal every single day, every day. And in fact, I was relishing in it. It was like, it was the most juicy, exciting thing to get to know myself. I couldn't get enough of it. It was like, how had I lived 35 years of my life? I didn't know who this woman really was. I didn't know how I really ticked. I was creating all these awarenesses. It was just light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. Like, it was so exciting. And so I was journaling every day for a good few years. I mean, this was, it was huge. In fact, when I first start working with a new client, this is all very new to her, I'm almost jealous of her. I'm like, oh, I remember those days when it all felt so new and exciting. And then it became more of a maintenance plan for me. So journaling has become more of an ongoing maintenance piece. And then when there's a new big up level for me, or I start working with a new coach and there's something, I'm just taking an area of my life to the next level, the journaling will become an absolute daily piece for me. And then it will kind of dissipate and I'll do little bits and bobs here and there. And I have other practices. And for me, being in my body and connected to my body as a feminine practice is something I have to have every day. Like I have to either be stretching or going to yoga or walking in the woods or doing something where I'm able to feel really connected to my body. Because journaling it's a little bit more head and emotion, whereas I kind of need I need to bring the body in. That's become a real non-negotiable for me. And I think the thing we have to be really aware of as well is it's very easy to think, oh, I feel really good. I'm good now.
Yeah.
I don't need to do my practices. I'm good. It's almost like that's when we need to do them the most.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're not like in catch up and it's like waiting for things to get bad before we then do our practices. That's kind of the wrong way around.
Yeah.
I mean, the maintenance is important.
Yeah. I totally agree. That's a good tip. Do it all the time, even when you feel like you're the happiest.
Yeah. But really, like, even honestly, I just think this is so important. Just remembering to ask yourself every day. I mean, this I would say is the non-negotiable every day. How do I feel? And what do I need? That's it. Because it's just that little jog to say, don't forget yourself.
Yeah.
Katie, don't get caught up in other people's needs. Don't get caught up in the to-do list. Don't get caught up in the kids. Don't get the work. Just hold on. How do I feel? How do I feel? It takes 5 seconds. How do I feel? Oh, yeah. What do I need? That's another maybe 30 to 60 seconds. What do I need? Okay, I might need a walk. I might need an early night. I need to eat cleaner today. What do I need? And it just takes your power back and sets an intention for your day. And that on its own is just a game changer. So when you feel like you've got no time for anything else, just that, it just resets your energy. It prioritizes you. And it's a very self-loving practice.
I like that. I will do that starting after this. We're coming to the end, but I have just a few questions, some rapid, some you can obviously take your time to answer. You talk about the masculine and feminine energy, and you talk about the way that where women today, we kind of live as men, or we live like we want to be equal. Do you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, well, I feel that in our desire to be equal to men, which is quite right.
Yes.
that desire has had us try and do life like a man does life, rather than find a way of doing life in a way that's true to you, whether you identify as a man or a woman. It's like, how does it feel good and true for you, and how could we all be equal in that? Because unfortunately, going way back, and it's still happening today, we've essentially learned how to do life from a very toxic masculine energy. It's nothing to do with gender. It's an energy. So I believe that no matter whether you identify as a man or a woman, within you, well, you are an energetic being, and that energy has a dynamic which I like to, and I'm not the only one, sort of refer to as a blend of masculine and feminine energy. So the feminine energy is just those activities that look like you're doing nothing. It looks like you're achieving nothing because it's being, it's receptive, it's surrendered, it's soft.
And it's so hard to look like you feel like you're doing nothing, but yes.
Right, but this is our conditioning. Yes. Our conditioning from the toxic masculine is that there's no time for that. We're not achieving anything. Someone else might reach the finish line before you, because toxic masculine buys into fear stories, scarcity. There's not enough for everybody. And then our empowered masculine energy is that energy within us that gets things done, that achieves, that makes things happen, which is wonderful. It's a beautiful energy. The masculine is just as wonderful and beautiful as the feminine. It's the toxic or disempowered masculine and feminine behavior. So disempowered feminine would be people pleasing, the guilt, the inability to put herself first. That would be disempowered feminine energy, and a disempowered masculine energy would be pushing and driving you forward and being busy out of fear that you will miss out, that there's not enough for everybody, and without any respect for your body, your needs, your health and your vitality. It's like, I don't care how tired you are, woman, you are going to finish everything on that to-do list. Otherwise, you won't make the money you need to make this month to look like a success or to prove your worth. It's like that energy that pushes you and exhausts you. This is how we've kind of, this is what we've learned to value for generations upon generations. That's what we've learned to value. And a lot of women have been conditioned to believe that to be equal to men, we have to work like men. But it's not the empowered masculine that we're working like. It's a disempowered energy. I mean, it's a big conversation, right? It's a big conversation. But also, we women, we're just not built like guys either.
Yeah. I think it is true. My fiance is like that. He's to do. And we just moved in our new house. And he's like, we just moved in. I can't live in boxes. Everything has to be put together. Blah, blah, blah. We need to have this. And I'm the opposite. Obviously, I'm like the artist side, which is like, wait, I need the space. I need the vision. I need the time. But because I live with him, I became more like do. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. I don't even like this. So it is that balance of like, hold on. So now I told him, because now the next thing is putting art stuff. I said, I need time. We need time to take it in, and then it's gonna happen. Just trust. Trust.
And that's so beautiful, because everything you just said then is the empowered feminine. And it's the empowered feminine that inspires and guides the empowered masculine into action. But the empowered masculine has to trust the feminine's timeline, because it's going to take as long as it takes, because you've got to feel into it. You have to receive the vision, and that flow is. I mean, this is the most exciting work that I find myself doing with women and men actually now. Predominantly, I work with women, but finding this flow, between our masculine and feminine is profound and exciting work.
Yeah. Okay, so I have quick rapid questions, and we're going to close it off. What is your biggest achievement as of today?
Oh my goodness. Well, outside of having my beautiful son, It's actually getting married.
Oh.
I was married. In fact, next month is our 3-year anniversary, and I've got a very, very healthy, empowered, wonderful relationship, and I genuinely never thought that was possible for me. So, yeah,
That's
another story
amazing.
behind that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the 3 years. And good.
Thank you.
I'm on the verge to get married, so it's good to hear.
Yay! Yay!
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, Netflix box sets.
Oh, okay, box sets.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, love a box set.
What is your favorite day of the week and why?
Oh, um, oh my goodness. Favorite day. Do you know? Well, I now have some very healthy boundaries in place. So my weekends, and I'd have to group it as Saturday. Can I have 2 days? Can I have
Yeah,
Saturday
yeah,
and
yeah.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I now have super strong boundaries in place now where those 2 days are ring fenced as it's all about me, it's all about my family, and it's all about completely switching off. For a long time, I allowed my work and my clients to come into my weekends as a recovering people pleaser and a desire to want my clients to just to be progressing quickly and having great results and feeling uber supported. I thought I had to be on for them all the time, and I've realized that it's okay for me to take a weekend.
So
So
Saturday
yeah,
and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday, they're my days.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
also start when I moved to London, I was like, okay, Saturday and Sunday. Let's take those 2 days off. But it makes such a difference in your week. You're so
yeah.
much more I feel like, yeah, taking time off is a good thing, not a bad thing.
It's a very good thing, and everyone you love gets better of you as a result.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
What is my last question is if you were given an elephant, you can't sell it or you can't give it back, what would you do with it?
If I was given an elephant and I can't sell it and I
Or
can't give it back,
Mhm.
like a real life elephant?
Yeah, yeah, like a real elephant.
Oh, you are such an artist, aren't you? What a question. I literally have no idea. um, I would, could I find a way to release it into, I guess I can't just put it back in the wild. It wouldn't survive. Can I find it like a sanctuary?
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
your answer. There's
It's
no
I'm
wrong
gonna
or
I you have completely thrown me. I would find an elephant sanctuary and pass it on with love.
okay, I'll take that.
Yeah. What would you do with an elephant?
Well, I've been asking this question a lot, so I have time to think. But most likely, I would find a place for it or somewhere
Yeah.
where it could live and thrive and be happy.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
did a conversation with I did a podcast interview with my fiance, and he was like, "But we waste money," and I'm like, "What the hell?" So we're like really different in that way. But yeah, I would try to take care of it and nourish it, and yeah, that's what I would do with it. But yeah.
So funny. Great question.
Thank you. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on and answering all those questions. You give us a lot of knowledge and a lot of, feeling good. I feel like after this conversation, I feel good. So
Oh,
thank you for that.
good. We want to feel good. Yeah. Thank you
Have
for having me.
Yeah. Oh, and tell us where can we contact you? Join the School of Self Love. Tell us all about that before I leave.
Yeah, so there's probably the easiest ways to come and find us. Our website is theschoolofself.love. Our Instagram is theschoolofself.love. And lots of free resources you'll find if you just go to those two spaces. And if you're a single woman desiring to call in your soulmate, I run a regular 5-day free experience called Meet Your Soulmate. It's a 5-day challenge, and it is literally changing women's lives all around the world. So if your desire is to call in love, if you've not met your one, this is a really good place to start.
Oh, I have some friends.
Yeah. So there's if you go to the School of Self.Love Instagram and you go into the links in the bio, you'll see the Meet Your Soulmate Challenge. And
all right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Pleasure. Thank you, darling.
Well, I don't know about you, but after this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Andrea, you have to go back. You have to start writing on your journal again and keep doing it. Keep it up. No stress about it. Just keep it up. You know it does you good. And I just feel inspired and feel like, it's sort of a new day, right? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you, Katie, so much for coming on this podcast. And please get in touch with Katie. She does lots of retreats. She has events happening. She has a lot happening. I'm going to put all the details of what she does on the description below. So check it out. And I'll see you soon. This podcast has been created by myself, Andrea D, and produced by Aaronite. To learn more, listen to the music, and join our mailing list, please go to andread.me. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to know more about your story. Last but not least, if you would like to contribute to this podcast, please do. We would love to keep going and make amazing episodes that inspire you. So don't forget to click on the link below. See you soon.